Hello, peeps. Now, this is going to be a strange one, right? Well, it's always a strange one with me anyway, but oddly enough, someone said to me, what was it like for you growing up? And just before I opened my mouth, I thought, hang about, am I going to describe growing up from a third person perspective as an adult now with regard to what it was like growing up? Or am I going to tell them what it was actually like growing up as a child? Now, that is a mental exercise. So let's start with this. Safety pins with blue and pink safety hoods on them. Nylon everything. I mean nylon everything. Nylon shirts, nylon socks, nylon curtains, nylon everything. And PVC, linoleum, that whole thing, yeah? I'm talking about pipe smoke, tobacco pipe smoke on the buses. I'm talking about that little green light that was radioactive on the radiogram. I'm talking about screw loose Bakelite fittings around electronic 250 volt toggle switches that kids could unscrew and screw back up again. I'm talking about massive square 6-volt batteries made by Everready that you like put in sequence. I'm talking about like paraffin lamps being a really comforting smell in winter and very welcoming when you came to someone's house. And the big paraffin heater and the small paraffin heaters and the one that had the igniter and the one that you had to light. Yeah, I'm talking about when the power cuts came, having a fisherman's lamp that you used to pump and used to light the little methylated spirits clamp to get the wick to light, the mantle to light, so as you could illuminate your home. And it was so bright that if you took it out your front door, you'd illuminate half the street. We're talking about, when you're on the bus, like you slide the windows open. Talk about windows that you wind, yeah, and the ones at the front that you could never ever open. We're talking about children. You see, if your mates came around and they said they wanted to play with you, it was never that simple. They'd throw pebbles up at your window. If that was unsuccessful, they'd form a little orderly group and go to your door and knock very politely, take 2 steps back and ask your parents by calling Mr. or Mrs. whatever, can blah 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 come out to play? Your name would be called quite hoarsely. Your friends are here. And then you'd come down and you'd be told, make sure that you're back before nightfall. That was it. And then you and your friends used to go out playing and you wouldn't come back until 9 o'clock at night. All of you were safe. The kids used to walk around safe. And where did they go? I'll tell you. Don't you go more than 2 blocks. Well, in actual fact, 4 blocks was the actual real perimeter. And within those 4 blocks, there were whole blocks that were like isolated and separate from the rest of the world. They were called bomb sites. And you'd lift the corrugated iron and you'd all slip in through that little bit of corrugated iron into a world of your own, where there were roads with those lampposts, which in Lambeth they were blue at the bottom and cream at the top. And they had a little squirrely top at the top of them, which used to be gas. It had 2 little bars on either side. And where the bomb shelters were, where the bomb site was, all of those lamps were in the original kind of, they looked how they looked in 1945. Yeah, everything did. On bomb sites, you always told, adults always said, you be careful in there. It's a dangerous place. Yeah, everyone was down there. All the kids were, but the parents knew where we were, and they knew the only harm that could come to us was bomb site harm, right? I'm talking about houses, right, that have been cut in half. So you're looking at a floor and you can see the ceiling directly beneath it and the gap between the two. And then on top of that, you can see kids playing. I'm talking about our own drinking fountain, which was a lead pipe that stuck out of the ground, which had buddleia growing around it for like 90 yards, 90 meters, and it's like 12 feet high, and it was just hissing in the middle of this thing, and there was a little swampy pool where we'd go and we'd get our water from. scrumping. It was a completely different world. Now, being in Brixton, might as well get cut to the chase. So what was it like, B? Well, we had the imps, the cubs, brownies, girl guides, and the scouts. St. Jude's School, church school, CV, used to have its it used to be based in the actual church on Rolton Road before it moved to Richmond Road. But yeah, when it was there, and the world looked different. If you went around the corner to Brockwell Park and you sat on the hill and you looked towards the river, now if you look towards the river, you're going to just see lots of red lights and lots of tower blocks. Back then, the only three things that you could see was St. Paul's, the post office tower, and the Shell building. I kid you not. And it was so quiet of a Sunday that if the wind was going in the right direction, you could hear all of the clocks in London chiming. It was that quiet. Now there's too much background noise. The police. Good subject. So what were the police like when you was growing up? Well, up until a point, police were cool. We didn't have police or fuzz or the old bill. We had bobbies. And our bobby, his name was John Brown. And he came to our school and everyone tried his hat on. Then he took the whole class out and we all went down to the old like no longer existing police station, down into the old no longer existing police cells where we stayed for like 15 minutes before we were allowed out and given rich tea biscuits and orange juice and told that if you broke the law, that's where you could possibly end up spending the rest of your life. So we had a very early induction as to what could happen if you got nabbed by the police. However, poor John Brown, his beat used to go straight down Mill Road. So I used to live on Mill Road, parallel to the front lane. And when he got married, because he met this WPC, her name was Pauline Brown. I must have been about 5 or 6 at the time. When he met Pauline Brown and the two of them got married, everyone on the beat, everyone that he knew or recognised him, bought him a wedding present and a card and came out and clapped, and the two of them walked down our road hand in hand. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a background. We used to have our keys on strings in our letterboxes. So if you came home, your key would be, you'd put your hand in your letterbox and get your key and open your front door. Someone walked down the street that wasn't supposed to be on that street, they were known as a stranger, and they'd be probably interrogated by one of the ladies who were probably outside beating their carpet or doing some, hanging out their clothes in the washing line, doing some old-fashioned thing like that. We had mangles in our gardens. Yeah, we used to put the clothes in the mangle and wine it. Yeah, the wood on the mangle was opened more in the middle than it was at the edges because it'd been so heavily used. We had a rag and bone man who used to come up the street shouting, rag and bone, rag and bone. You could hear the hooves clopping. Usually on a foggy morning, and it was really, really dark, you could hear it. And people would come out with their knives and their pots, and he'd fix pots and he'd sharpen knives and he'd buy the old mangles and any old bit of metal. Any old iron, that's it. And then there was the man who sold the paraffin man. Yeah, oily, we called him. Oily. Yeah. And he used to advertise Michelin on top of his oil van too. There you go. You know, the Michelin man. Yeah. So you'd have the Michelin man and Dunlop being advertised on the blue lube. Yes, that's right. Blue lube. Blue lube was the paraffin man. And he used to shout, oily. And people used to come out and top up their paraffin lamps. Funny how welcoming the smell of paraffin can be on a winter's day. And to visit someone, walk in, you smell the paraffin and you fall asleep in their living room. Yeah. Something else as well. If you went into a pub in them days, there used to be these little plaques on the bar and tankards. And these guys used to come in, these old soldiers, they used to come in with their little walking sticks. And on they even had little names of places that they'd been to on their walking sticks. And they'd come and they'd be called the colonel and the general and what have you. They'd come and they'd sit at that bar and they'd have sausages on sticks. The ex-minister carpet would always look like lino, just by the front door. Then there would be the little fish stall or the little fish van that would literally turn up. Usually a stall on, like, you know, hand pushed, and they'd have the cockles and the whelks and all this malarkey. And that was just the corner of the street. So like, yeah, it was only in the throes of the 70s as a child that you started to realise that something was happening outside of your own little microcosm. But I can always remember something that the old women used to say. They don't even know they've been born. Yeah? They don't even know they've been born. It's funny how we can almost say the same thing nowadays about the kids. Stay safe and you take care.